So here's a fun little story about my free cat who cost me over $1,000 thanks to the cat distribution system, which is a humorous meme about how cats tend to wander into our lives and decide that we belong to them. So a few summers ago, my kids and I were driving home from karate class in late June, and I saw this little animal out in the road. I stopped and I realized it was an 8-week-old kitten, and so I took him off the road and moved him to the ditch. And he sat there looking at me helplessly and meowing, and I could see he was dirty and covered in fleas, and so I asked around to make sure he didn't belong to anyone, and well, we brought him home. My kids were thrilled. But once we got the little guy cleaned up, we could tell something was wrong with him. He was having trouble breathing, and we convinced a really seasoned veterinarian to take a look at him. "Oh, this kitten's not going to make it," he said. "There's only one person in town who might be able to save him, and he's at the emergency vet in St. Louis, and you need to go right now if you even want a chance. I'll call him and tell him you're coming." So we did, and for nearly 2 weeks, this little kitten sat at the vet in an oxygen chamber, and every day, the people I talked to would tell me I was wasting money. He was going to die, and I should just let him go. But little signs of life suggested to me he wasn't a goner. He'd eat and drink and play with toys. He was sweet and purring loudly when he saw people. He clearly wasn't ready to leave this world. And so, over $1,000 later, we got the good news that he was all right, and we got to pick him up and take him home, and he's a full-grown cat now. We even had to get him a cat of his own so he wouldn't be lonely. And he rewards me for all of that heroism by doing things that make sense in his little cat brain, like bringing me toys at 2 a.m, or talking loudly to the birds outside when the sun first comes up, or just hanging out in the room with me, sleeping happily and enjoying the life that the cat distribution system afforded him. But you know, I'm far from the only person out there willing to drop a G on a stray animal who needs help. People spend an enormous amount of money on their pets, and if you talk to an animal lover, you'll find out pretty quickly that they'll spend a lot more than I did to make sure that their pet has a happy, healthy, lengthy life. So today, we're going to talk about cats and all the marketing that goes into helping cat owners do just that. I'm Sean in St. Louis, and this is the Marketing Gateway. So if you heard part 1 of this series on dogs, you probably remember that somewhere between 42 to 53% of American households have a canine companion. Cats are found in somewhere between 33 to 39% of households, depending on the data source. 2 I included in our sources for this episode are the American Pet Products Association, or APA, and the American Veterinary Medical Association, or AVMA, the latter of which says that the average number of cats in a pet-owning household is 1.8. Now, I couldn't find any reliable statistics on how many Americans own both a cat and a dog, but I did find a statistic from Forbes Advisor that 35% of Americans have more than one pet. So for what it's worth, everybody at Team RPG has at least one pet, and I know production assistant Holly has both dogs and cats. I did too before our last pup passed away a few years ago. We're all a pet-loving group. But anyhow, cat owners expect to spend a little less than dog owners on their pets because, well, cats are cheaper. The veterinary bills are about the same. The AVMA says it's about $529 per household for cats versus about $600 for dogs. But cat food is also a lot cheaper because cats are smaller and don't eat as much as dogs. 2025 U.S. pet food sales for cats were $18.1 billion versus $40.9 billion for dogs, according to the industry trade resource Pet Food Processing. And cat food spending in general has gone up, possibly because the ingredients got more expensive and also because cats tend to be pickier than dogs about what they eat, and cat food owners have to focus a little bit more on quality as a result. Interestingly, the same report says that when you look at generational cohorts, the distributions of cat and dog ownership are pretty much identical. For example, 32% of millennials and 25% of Gen Xers are dog owners, and the proportions are almost exactly the same for cat owners in those generations, 32% and 24% respectively. Likewise for gender. So the stereotypes about crazy old cat ladies are just that. Stereotypes about a very specific type of pet owner who's not representative of the population. The data suggests many households only have 2 or 3 cats, which goes along with the rule of thumb that you should never have that many more cats than you have people in the house. At most, the size of your household plus 1. One reason for that is kitty litter, which is by far the most obnoxious part about owning a cat. You need at least 1 litter box for every cat you own, plus 1 spare if you live in a 2-story house. Nobody likes dealing with kitty litter. If you've never lived with a cat, you probably don't know that cats are in general pretty clean creatures, but they have 3 tendencies that make them kind of annoying as housemates. One of them is coughing up hairballs. Those are still easier to deal with, though, than bathing a cat yourself. Not an experience I'd recommend. Another is puking up their food, which cats do from time to time, and that's not a pleasant habit. But a third is splashing around in that litter box, which they absolutely need to use because they generally won't go to the bathroom any other way. Kitty litter is not fun to deal with because you have to sift it regularly to get the solids out, or use one of a number of contraptions to stay on top of it. You can also toilet train your cat, but that's really up to the cat to see if he or she will accept the training. Cats do not like to be trained, by the way. In their minds, they train us. We don't train them. So, one of the ways to deal with kitty litter that's emerged recently are what are known as litter robots. They're really cool inventions that sort of look like space pods the cats can get up into and which then self-clean once the cat does its business. They're huge and they cost a fortune. The best ones are $600 to $800 easily. But they are convenient, at least until they stop working. Research compiled by the website Wild Cat Reviews says that the market size for robotic litter stations is currently around $768 million, but is expected to climb into the billions in the next 5 years. I expect that there will be a bigger market for these as they get cheaper and easier to replace once they break, but right now, it appears we're still in the early adopter stage of the category's life cycle. Another thing cat owners have to invest in is climbing structures for cats, so that they can have appropriate scratching posts, toys, nooks, and sleeping areas. These can be anywhere from $25 to $150 depending on their size and quality, and they're generally fairly low-tech devices that aren't hard to buy in flat packs and then assemble at home. But the cutting-edge cat products right now aren't freestanding structures like cat trees or cat condos, but instead cat playgrounds that are mounted to the wall with platforms, climbing holes, bridges, ramps, hammocks, cubbies, and scratching areas so the cats can get up high and enjoy their time peering down at us lowly humans. One seller, Catastrophic Creations, offers kits for these ranging from $200 to $600. And to be fair, you do want these to be quality products so the cats aren't falling off the walls along with the hardware. You also have to make sure that they're made of durable materials because, well, cats love to scratch things. Because cats are known for sudden bursts of energy, we call it the zoomies around my house, as well as for getting easily upset by changes to their environment, there are also products designed to calm cats down and provide a remedy for their anxiety. This is actually pretty important because when a cat gets upset, it tends to stay upset for a while, and it may go and hide somewhere or even become aggressive. This goes way beyond catnip, which is pretty cheap, but which doesn't work on every cat reliably. There are drops for food that range from $10 to $25 a bottle and treats that can range from $15 to $20 a bag. Another way to enhance a cat's life is to add automatic feeders and bubbling water bowls to their environment. Cats like to be fed on time and also won't drink water that isn't fresh. Their instincts have taught them that still water is a lot more potentially dangerous than running water. Fortunately, a lot of these products aren't expensive, usually $20 to $30 a piece, but what makes them difficult to sell is that there are so many of them to choose from, often due to online listings on sites like Amazon, which means cat owners have to do their research to make sure they're not buying poor quality products that may stop working properly or even injure their cats. It's also not a good idea for house cats to be let outdoors because it tends to increase their chances of getting injured, introduces them to parasites or fleas, and causes havoc among the local bird population. Cats love to kill birds. Cats also tend to seek safe places outdoors and can be very tricky to retrieve if they get loose. But there are products designed to allow cats to be outside more safely, like Catty enclosures where cats can safely be outdoors, harness and leash systems to allow people to walk cats, good luck, and even backpacks that can serve as a cat carriers and allow cats to safely ride along on a walk or a hike. A good catio is anywhere from $50 to $200 depending upon its size, and travel backpacks range from $25 to $160 depending on their size and quality. Obviously, mesh screens are an iffy idea for a creature with claws and a will to escape, so bubble backpacks with large plastic windows and smaller mesh breathing holes are a popular option, and some even expand out into cat tents for those taking all-day treks. I'm not really sure what to do about kitty litter on those treks, but some of those bags do have hookups for leashes and harnesses, so, maybe the cats can get trained to go outside and do their business in the woods. I'm not sure. But another interesting thing about cat marketing is that you can create businesses built around visiting cats for people that don't actually own cats. The most popular variation of these right now is the Cat Cafe, a niche business where patrons pay an hourly cover fee to sit in rooms full of cats and just enjoy them. Maybe play with them, or feed them treats, or pet them, or simply admire them. The idea first appeared in Asia and became very popular in Japan before gradually migrating to other parts of the world. In the United States, there are well over 200 of these cafes right now, and many are run by or operated in conjunction with cat rescue organizations that use the cafes to not only provide homes for cats and visibility to encourage their adoption, but also to raise funds and awareness for their efforts. One of the biggest problems for these cafes is that they're often not regulated and may have poor cleanliness standards, and thus many have separated the cafe areas where food is served or have made food to go so that they can avoid having health inspectors put their cafes on their radar. As a cat owner, one of the things I've really enjoyed has been the lack of need for boarding or pet sitting while I'm away on short trips. Pet sitting is pretty easy since cats are independent creatures, and if I had automated feeders or water dishes, I could probably leave my cats for several days and they'd be fine. When I compare them to dogs who need constant supervision and also need to be let out regularly to use the bathroom, cats are just so much easier. But there is one way in which cats can be more expensive than dogs, and that's home security. See, dogs have the great benefit of being a strong deterrent to intruders. Most people are afraid of being bitten by a dog, and dogs are generally pretty aggressive when they're trying to protect their territory. You can have a dog in the house and rest easy that most ne'er-do-wells won't be breaking in. But cats, they're terrible guardians of the household, and they don't deter anyone except those with allergies. Cats can definitely be hostile or aggressive when startled, but they can also go run under the bed or hide or walk up to a stranger and start asking to be fed. Remember, cats don't see us as authority figures. They think that we are here to serve them. But you know what? At least they do make it worth our while by being adorable and interesting and fun to pet. I'm sure I'll have dogs again one day, but I'm really glad a free cat wandered into my life, even if it did cost me a small fortune to keep him. I'm Sean in St. Louis, and this has been The Marketing Gateway. See you next time. So here's a reminder. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. According to Mental Health America, nearly 1 in 5 American adults will have a diagnosable mental health condition in any given year, and 46% of Americans will meet the criteria for a diagnosable mental health condition at some point in their life. Half of those people will develop conditions by the age of 14. Mental health is something we all should take seriously. Please do not be afraid to seek help. You're not alone in your struggles, and if you know someone who's struggling with mental health conditions, please help in any way that you can. Sometimes all it takes is a simple text checking in on them, and it could end up saving their life. If you find yourself needing immediate help, please text or call the Suicide and Crisis Hotline at 988. And if you would like to learn more or you need assistance in finding help, you can visit Mental Health America's website at mhanational.org. There's also an option on the page to donate if you feel so inclined, and I hope that you will.